there's one thing I could go back in time and tell my earlier anime collecting self, it would be remember, your displays need to keep up with your anime figure collection. I was so guilty with my figure collection that I would just keep buying figures without having any really proper way of displaying them, and I think pretty much anyone who collects will come across this problem at some time or another. I think we all become so hyper-focused on pre-ordering the latest figure that we totally forget that we have to actually display that once it arrives. So we end up throwing it on a nightstand or a dresser or up on the fireplace mantle next to Grandma's ashes. Over the last year or so, I've totally revamped my figure collection displays, going with cabinets that only make my collection look that much better, but also allow me room to grow as more figures come in. So in today's video, I thought I'd go over the different display cabinets that I use, while also showing you guys different display options within any price point for any collector out there. No matter if you have 5 figures and $20 to spend, or 300 figures and $2,000 to spend, I guarantee you I can show you display options that will not only make your collection look better, but also organize it and protect it for years to come. Now, in the early stages of figure collecting, getting some sort of proper display case for our figures is usually the last thing on our mind. At least it was mine way back in the day when I first started collecting. I had figures everywhere, pretty much anywhere I had room at the time to put them. And this is probably one of the worst things you could ever do with your figures. Every single one of these spots are high traffic areas. I mean, around your computer, on your nightstand, that's places where you're constantly reaching and bumping and spilling things. I am very lucky that I have not broken more figures than I actually have, because I cannot tell you guys the amount of times I've totally just yeeted a figure off my nightstand or off my computer desk, especially early in my collection. And these weren't cheap either. These were pop-up parades or prize figures for the most part. These were scale figures worth sometimes hundreds of dollars. If you're in the same sort of situation, collecting anime figures, especially early on, probably one of the best and cheapest investments you can make is going to be some sort of bookshelf. A simple bookshelf from IKEA or Walmart or Amazon or Target, pretty much any of these known retailers. Not only are they super affordable and can usually fit about a dozen anime figures, it's a type of display you can adapt while your figure collection grows. One of the earliest displays that I invested in was a simple IKEA bookshelf, and I'm still using it today. You can find tons of different bookshelves online that sit right around that $50 mark and are perfect for displaying your anime figures, your manga, your doujin, your DVDs, pretty much anything that you might collect. One great trick to use if you are on a super tight budget with your figure displays is to check your local marketplace, whether that would be Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, anything like this. You can always find people on there that have these sort of bookcases that are moving and don't want to take them with them, so they'll sell them for dirt cheap. I bought my IKEA brand bookshelf right down the road from me for 20 bucks, and not only was it in perfect condition, but it was fully assembled, which saved me probably a few hours of frustration and valuable figure collecting time. I've even seen people way more creative than me totally customize these cabinets by painting them different colors, adding LED lights, adding pictures as backdrops behind their figures. So even though a bookshelf sounds pretty basic at the end of the day, it does allow for some creative liberties if you are artistic enough. Another option that is similar to a bookshelf but can often display a ton more items is going to be some sort of media cabinet. A media cabinet or a media case is very similar to a bookshelf. The only thing is it's a lot skinnier and is typically longer than your average bookshelf. This allows a collector a ton of room, whether they're displaying manga or doujin or DVDs or figures, whatever it might be. You have a ton of real estate to work with these different media cabinets. Most bookshelves and media cabinets have adjustable shelves as well, so as you change the use of it for figures to manga, let's say, like I have with this cabinet here behind me, you can easily adjust the shelves to fit whatever you might be displaying. And although a media cabinet might be more expensive than your average bookshelf, it does allow you a lot more real estate to work with as a collector, so it might be something to consider if it's worth the extra money for you or not. Now, bookshelves or media cabinets or mounted wall shelves, these are all great options for the beginner collector who's just looking to get a nice designated anime figure collection spot. But all these displays still suffer from one fatal flaw, and that is pretty much anything that's displayed on these cabinets is still completely exposed to the outside elements. Meaning things like dust or fingerprints or them getting bumped into and knocked over is still going to be a problem. If a collector is trying to get to that next level of their displays and try to get into some sort of glass cabinet that completely protects their figures, then I cannot not talk about the IKEA Detolf cabinet. This cabinet is like the holy grail for figure collectors, and I know everyone out there probably already knows that, but I still cannot make this video without mentioning this absolute beauty. For $80, you are not going to find a better glass display cabinet than the IKEA Detolf, and believe me, I have tried. These displays are super sleek looking for the price point. They have all glass sides, they have a nice magnetic door, 4 shelves, and can typically hold about a dozen scale figures or so. Just by simply adding 2 16-foot LED RGB light strips to my Detolf cabinets, they look absolutely amazing and are by far, in my opinion, the best display cases for anime figures for the price point. They are also completely enclosed, which means they help protect against dust and fingerprints and grimy hands, whatever it might be. There's also a lot of different accessories that people really like to use with the Detolf cabinets, whether that might be different LED light strips or using the Calyx riser by IKEA to bring the Detolfs up about a foot. There's even places online where you can find 3D printed little shelf adjusters, so you can actually adjust the shelves inside the Detolf to fit different size figures. So for the price point and the amount of aftermarket accessories that are available for the Detolf cabinet, it's easy to see why it's so popular in the figure collecting community. And the Detolf is definitely not the only display option out there, especially from IKEA. One that you'll see a lot would be like the Billy bookcase with the glass door attachment. The Millsbow, I think is what it's called. That's another glass display case that looks really, really nice. All these display cases that I've talked about so far sit easily under the $200 price point, so that's perfect for somebody who's just starting figure collecting and is on a budget, or whose figure collection is continuing to grow and they're starting to need some sort of display cabinet to actually show off their collection. Now, before I talk about the next style of display case that really takes a jump in not only quality but in price as well, there is one style of display that I do want to mention, and that is going to be a display box or a countertop display, depending on what you want to call it. Now, this type of display box is meant to showcase a single item, and in my personal experience, that might be a high-end resin figure that doesn't quite fit in a Detolf cabinet or on one of my other displays. These display boxes are awesome for showcasing a single figure, whether it be really expensive or just a large scale figure, because they are completely enclosed and help protect it from dust and fingerprints just like you would see with a glass cabinet. What's also really cool about these boxes is that you can completely customize the size of them online, so you can have it fit perfectly to really any item you might have. These display boxes vary so much in price point depending on what kind of base you want, what kind of material you want the actual box to be, such as acrylic or glass, and definitely depending on what size you want the actual box to be as well. I would say depending on the size of the display box, they typically range in that $100 to $200 price point, but if you're protecting, let's say, a resin figure that's worth $500 plus, then I would say that's a pretty fair investment. Throw in a simple wireless RGB puck light or some showcase lights, and you have a display that looks amazing. I was just sitting here taking a break from recording, kind of looking over this Mia figure that we talked about in the last episode, and I noticed here on the side, kind of says the normal meme here, what would you like to do first, you know, dinner, a bath, or me? But I just noticed that they misspelled bath on there. They spelled it both. Welcome home, darling. What would you like to do first? A dinner? A boof, or me, sexually. So the last type of display cases that I'm going to go over in this video are going to be your frameless glass display cabinets. That kind of sounds like the title for a final boss, and it really is in the figure collecting world. These cabinets are really expensive, but they can display a ton of figures and are beautifully made. Much like a Detolf cabinet, they are completely enclosed and have a sliding front door to really help protect your collection from the outside elements, but are just made with much more beefy materials than you would see with a Detolf or Billy cabinet or some sort of other IKEA cabinet in that price range. Meaning that the glass on these cabinets is going to be much thicker, the shelves are going to be much thicker, so they can hold a lot more weight and a lot more figures. They're also frameless, which means that they have no metal rods or any sort of support. The actual glass walls of the cabinet completely support themselves. It really gives these cabinets a seamless look that once you add a few LED lights to them, they look amazing. The 48-inch wide frameless display cabinets that I personally own can also hold a ton of figures. Each one of the display cabinets could comfortably hold, I would say, anywhere around 70 to 100 figures, depending on their scale. However, these cabinets are not perfect, and they definitely have a few things to consider before you run and purchase your own. They are extremely expensive. The ones that I purchased were right around $600 a piece, and that is definitely on the cheaper side compared to what you'll see shopping around online. They're also very large and heavy to ship, which means they typically have to go through some sort of freight shipping, not your typical UPS or USPS shipping. That means just shipping these cabinets can sometimes cost in plus of $200. And some of these retail store display websites online won't even ship to residential addresses. They will only ship to actual stores. So that's something to definitely keep an eye out when you're shopping around online if you are looking for these style cases. They are also no joke to put together. You will definitely need a friend to put these cases together and get them assembled. In my personal experience, just to put together these 3 cases, that took me and a friend about a day or so to get them completely assembled. Compared to a simple detolf cabinet that I could put together myself in about 30 to 45 minutes. But if price really isn't a worry and you're just looking for the best display cabinet, especially if you have quite a bit of space and quite a lot of figures, it's kind of hard to beat the frameless displays. The last thing I get a lot of questions about regarding my display cases is the RGB lights that I use. For all my cabinets, I use the same exact RGB lights, and that is the Govee RGB LED light strips. There are a million different companies that make LED light strips, but that's just the one I went with, and so far they've been really, really good. For my detolf cabinets, I use their 2 16-foot LED light strip kit, which allows me to do one strip completely around the back of the cabinet and then one completely around the front of the cabinet. That way I don't have to use any sort of adapters or corner brackets, anything like that. I just peel off the back, stick them, and they look really nice. For my 48-inch frameless display cabinets, I use the same exact light strips, just their 2 25-foot strips instead of the 16-foot strips. If you are looking for LED light strips for the detolfs or Billy cabinets, IKEA does make their own for both these display cases. And online you'll find a lot of different ways people have added light strips to their detolf or Billy or other IKEA cabinets. But that's the way that I've personally done it. It's super easy to do and doesn't cost a lot of money at all. One little touch I did add to my frameless displays is with the light strips, I did put them in a diffuser strip. Pretty much a diffuser is just a piece of plastic that goes over the actual LED strip, so it kind of evens out the tone a little bit instead of seeing the individual bulbs of the LEDs. That is something that is completely optional and is up to you whether you want to invest in and install yourself, but it does definitely help kind of even out that RGB tone a little bit. Now there are hundreds of different display options online that I have not talked about in this video that might be perfect for your own personal collection. The displays that I have talked about though are ones that I personally used and can stand by actually working, looking really nice, and are worth the money that I've spent on them. Definitely leave a comment down below telling me about your favorite way to display your figures or different display cabinets that I may have forgotten about. Or if you have any questions about display cabinets, especially the ones that I've talked about in this video, feel free to leave a comment down below with that as well. Alright you guys, that is going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me as we kind of talked about the different displays in my collection and how I've used them. Remember, the link to all my social media will be down below, so if you have any questions for me, definitely feel free to check out my Discord or my Instagram. I'll also have a link to the different products that I've talked about in this video, and none of these are sponsored. These are just the products that I've personally used over the years with my own collection. Other than that, though, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be sure to catch all of you in the next one. Peace.